2024 was the year that the prop firm industry got nuked. Over 100 prop firms went out of business, payouts dried up, and for a while it looked like the entire industry was circling the drain. But 2025 didn't follow that script. It did something different. It didn't collapse, it mutated. Some firms stabilized, some firms leveled up, while others found new and creative ways to light themselves on fire. We saw FTMO come back to the United States, which many traders said would never happen. We saw futures prop firms enter the space and make tons of noise with massive discounts, messy drama, and Project X pulling the rug on half the industry overnight. We watched pay after you pass challenges gain in popularity, which at face value look exciting, but when you look at the numbers, it is doomed to fail. We also saw new broker-backed prop firms enter the space, with perhaps the biggest headline being Kraken acquiring Breakout Prop. But of course, maybe the biggest story of all is my Forex Funds winning their legal case and potentially re-entering the industry. Meanwhile, on our side at Lark Funding, we launched our new one-step career program, becoming the first prop firm in the industry to pay traders even when they're in drawdown and offering the largest one-step drawdown in the industry. 2025 wasn't a quiet year. It wasn't stable. It was a turning point. It was the year that the industry decides what it's going to be next. So in this video, I'm breaking down the entire year. What died, what survived, and what evolved. And most importantly, what might happen next. Let's get into it. The first thing that we need to discuss is the stability that we saw in 2025. In 2024, we saw over 100 prop firms leave the industry in often a very dramatic fashion. I have to remind you, you probably still have some scar tissue, but one example is the funded trader, which even in 2025 tried to make a comeback, but it looks like that attempt is no more. And so we saw a lot more stability in the industry, across the industry in 2025, which overall was a great thing. Many of the closures that we saw in 2024 were due to prop firms just running absolutely insane discounts that were unsustainable, offering rules that were also just far too easy and unsustainable for the firm. But also, many of the closures in 2024 first came because MetaTrader was no longer available to many prop firms, often overnight. And fortunately, across the industry, we didn't see this in the CFD space. We're seeing a lot of firms bring back MT5, bring back new platforms. There's now a large variety from CTrader, DXTrade, Match Trader, Trade Locker, MT5. There's a whole host of platforms that are now available, which I think as a whole provides a better foundation for the industry, because before, if everyone was relying on MetaTrader, now there's a nice variety for traders. The second major update that we saw in the industry this year was the launch of the new one-step career program at Lark Funding. Obviously, I'm biased. I own the company. We've been in business for over 3 years. But in terms of new programs that we saw in this industry, there really wasn't any besides this and the new pay after you pass program, which we're going to look at and which I have very strong feelings about. So if you're not aware, the new one-step program, which we've titled the career program, is the first program in the industry that pays traders even if they're in drawdown. So depending on your account size, you can earn a monthly payout, a monthly salary that fluctuates based on your account size. So on the 100K account, you can earn a monthly payout of $500, even if you're down as much as negative 3.5%. The monthly salary on the 200K account is $1,000. So this was really designed to bring something new, something that the industry hadn't seen before. We also now have the largest one-step drawdown in the industry at 7%. It's a static drawdown, no trailing drawdown, no consistency rules, no news restrictions. And so this was, of course, I'm biased, but I think this was a really exciting update in the industry, because for the most part, nothing new was created this year, which goes against the grain of what we saw in 2024 with the creation of instant funding programs, three-step programs. Really, there was nothing new except for the pay after you pass, which we'll talk about in this. On top of that, we also are giving traders an opportunity to have basically a buy one, get two. If you fail, you can receive a 100% discount. So rather than having, a 10%, 20% reset discount, you can actually get a 100% discount code to try a second time. So that, on top of getting paid even if you're in drawdown, hopefully you can let me know in the comments, including your hate comments if you want. Hopefully this was an exciting update that we saw in the industry. So moving on to update number 3, we saw FTMO re-enter the industry, which many traders, many pundits in the industry didn't think was going to happen. So this was a great move for the industry as a whole. I used FTMO back in 2021 when I was becoming a full-time trader. Obviously very stable. They're an absolutely massive company. And in 2024, they left the US. I don't think it was 2023. Pretty sure it was 2024 when they no longer offered their services to the US. So this was a long time coming. But with their acquisition of Oanda, just a massive, massive brokerage, it sort of paved the pathway for them to do this. So they hit their 10-year anniversary. And then also in, I believe, the summer, they announced that they're back in the US. And you can see here their prices. This is a screenshot when their Black Friday promo was going on, when they had 20% off, which they don't run very often, but you can see here the prices. They're still near the top of the industry. The 100K account at $619 and $1240 for their 200K account. And props to them, they're not offering a 5K account, so they're really focusing on those higher account sizes. So this overall was great for the industry. It really shows a lot of legitimacy, acquiring Oanda and then re-entering the US, which has to be most likely their largest market. So that was the third update, the third sort of, breaking news shattering event that we saw in the industry this year. Moving on to something that's maybe a little bit more juicy, a little bit more controversial, is what's been going on in the futures prop firm space. Now, I am by no means an expert on futures. Many traders have been asking us to bring a futures firm at Lark Funding. Not something that's in the pipeline. We want to stick to what we do best. But a lot of traders are going over to futures. And I think my main thesis for what's going to happen in 2026, and I'm going to make an entire video on my 2026 predictions. I think, unfortunately, what we saw in the CFD prop firm space in 2024, we're going to see in the futures prop firm space in 2026, because end of 2025, we're already starting to see some cracks forming. We're already starting to see some, not great things. So in 2025, we saw the launch of a ton of new futures prop firms, including Funded Next Futures. And with that, there's just been a lot of different drama. So one of the things that happened that really shook the industry, again, was late 2025, is what happened with Project X. So Project X is a trading platform owned by TopStep, and many prop firms were using this platform. Many of their traders were using this platform. And obviously, you could argue conflict of interest. A futures prop firm is using the platform that their competitor owns, and that competitor is going to have the data on these traders and whatnot. So here you can see a message from Alpha Futures, which is a really, really large futures prop firm. He says here, Ben, enough questions, rumors in chat. I'll address it now. As you can all imagine, with how poorly Project X has treated us the last 2 months and how much I've had to fight them tooth and nail to avoid losses correctly, we've been heavily considering stepping away. We didn't want to pull the plug on any of our traders. We're finally told the decision is being made for us. Project X will not be offered to any other prop firm but TopStep. This is not going into effect immediately. So basically what happened was TopStep said that Project X would no longer be available to different prop firms, even though, it was one of the most popular platforms that, futures firms were offering. So it's very similar to, the MetaTrader situation where traders are accustomed to a platform. Platforms are very sticky. Traders, are finicky. If you love a platform, you don't want to switch the platform that you trade on. And so this was really, really big news. You can see another tweet here. TopStep is shady. They showed their hand when AWS caused Project X to crash. We'll go down twice a week for absolutely nothing. And then here's another one. TopStep really played on all of us. They dropped their no activation fees and competitive pricing. Everyone's hyped, finally listening to traders. Again, this is exactly what we saw in the CFD space in 2024. Slashing prices, increasing drawdown, dropping profit targets. Everyone is excited, but then cracks start to form and they have to do things that, traders don't like. So they do all these things, and they quietly sneak in this new rule. Starting payout number 2, your balance must stay at or above your last payout amount to qualify, which, is kind of crazy. So that's, one of the big drama things that happened in the future space in 2025. Another one was with Funded Next Future. So Funded Next, obviously, a massive, massive prop firm. Here's another one for Project X here, So anyways, Funded Next Futures, they made a lot of news and controversy when they had a trader who made $60K in profit, and rather than moving that that profit over to a live account, which is typically what happens in the future space. If you make 60K in profit, as an example, all of that profit would get moved over to an actual live account. But rather than doing that, they gave him a $7,500 live account. So as you can see here, my thesis, and again, I'm going to make a whole video on this of my 2026 predictions, but we're already starting to see cracks in the future space, which is really unfortunate. So my thesis is everything that we saw happen in 2024, the overall general vibe of that is what we're going to see in the future space in 2026. So make sure if you're trading futures that you are choosing the firm very, very carefully and you're keeping an eye on all of these things. Moving on to update number 4, the second new model that we saw in the industry is the pay after you pass model. Now, of course, like most things in this industry, at face value, it sounds amazing. You pay 5, 10, 15, 50 bucks, whatever it is, to get a challenge at an insanely cheap price. So say, 25 bucks for a 100K account, and you only pay after you pass. Sounds amazing. It's low barrier to entry. It's a win-win. It is actually a lose-lose once you run the numbers. So if I can remember, I'll try and link up here the video that I made. This new prop firm model is a scam, where I broke down the numbers both from a trader's perspective and a prop firm's perspective. Now you can see here, these are the exact numbers, this top one here. These are the exact numbers that I pulled from a firm that is offering the pay after you pass. And you could see on the 100K account, the price that you pay after passing is dependent on your risk. So are you considered low risk, medium risk, high risk? The smallest possible fee that you will pay after passing would be $847, which would be the highest in the industry. That's best, absolute best case scenario. Whereas in the worst possible case scenario, if you're considered a high risk trader, yeah, you might have only paid $49 to access phase 1. But if you want your funded account, you have to pay $3,098. This goes all the way up to almost $6,200 on the 200K account and $1,550 on the 50K account. So you can see here, obviously it varies by trader, but the general theme applies to all of these accounts that you end up paying just ridiculous amounts of money. And so, it looks great at face value, but traders aren't going to win. And also prop firms aren't going to win, because you might think, oh my gosh, a prop firm is so greedy charging these prices. Actually, no, I ran the numbers and you can see here, this is not taking into account, customer support, any operational costs aside from payouts. You could see here, based on the percentage of traders that pass, which is 10%, not everyone's going to be able to afford the activation fee. So if 80% of traders that pass sign up, the actual gross profit after payouts would be estimated in the red for both the 50K and the 100K account. So the pay after you pass model, my prediction for 2026, it is going to gain in popularity and then it's just going to blow up in an absolutely terrible fashion. You can see here, it is not good for the prop firm and it is not good for the trader, aka nobody wins. So that was really the only new model that really showed up in the industry aside from our one-step career program. Moving on to update number, I think we're at 5. This one was a really exciting one. Kraken, which is a crypto brokerage. I used them myself, not affiliated, but I used them. They purchased Breakout Prop. So Breakout Prop was and is a crypto focused prop firm that gained a lot of popularity, and basically out of nowhere, Kraken acquired them, at least from our perspective, not having any insider information. It looked like it was out of nowhere. And I think this is an absolutely excellent headline and development for the industry. The more legitimate brokers and just big players that acquire prop firms or operate prop firms is going to give a lot of legitimacy to the industry, which is great. Now, one of the themes we saw in late 2024, early 2025 is more broker-backed prop firms, and everybody thought that this would be the best thing since sliced bread. And based on reviews of a lot of these prop firms, these broker-backed prop firms, that's not actually the case. The thing is, depending on where the license is to run the brokerage, it really could not mean that much, right? If you have a US licensed and regulated broker running a prop firm, that's a completely different thing. But if you have a broker that is licensed, somewhere where the barrier to entry is very, very low, which is the case for a lot of these brokers, it really doesn't mean that much. But Kraken obviously is the complete exception to this rule. Kraken is heavily regulated, and I think overall this is a great development for the industry. It'll be interesting to see if more brokers get into the space, legitimate brokers get into the space in 2026. But But again, I own my own prop firm, but I'm not afraid to say I like what Breakout is doing. They don't run discounts, and they're focused on crypto. And so hats off to them. I think this is a really amazing development. Moving on to perhaps the biggest news of 2025 is my Forex Funds winning their legal battle and potentially in 2026 re-entering the prop firm industry. So this one was posted on October 9th, and you could see here they say in August of 2023. So we're over 2 years from this. This has been going on a long time. My Forex Funds was wrongfully shut down. The CFTC's case in the US has been dismissed, and the unwinding process of receivership in Canada is still ongoing. And then they put out this statement here. My Forex Funds had a stellar reputation, was the highest rated prop firm on Trustpilot, operated the largest Discord. So they're just saying everything that went on. In May 2025, a U.S. federal judge granted our motion for sanctions, dismissed the case, and awarded us our attorney's fees, which I saw in another post was insane. It was like over $1 million in attorney's fees. The court found that the CFTC lied in its filings to shut down our business. We've always maintained that we are innocent of the allegations against us, and this was a complete vindication for my Forex Funds in the United States. So this was from the CEO back in October, and then they provided another update roughly a month later on November 6th, saying a roadmap is more than just a plan. It's a journey we're taking together with our community. We're opening the doors to transparency, keeping you informed of each step, challenge, and achievement along the way. So after the court order is finalized, Canadian regulators may continue to review. However, we will be regaining full control of our assets, including data sources, systems, and more, which will allow us to conduct a comprehensive analysis. So they're still being very vague in the sense of, we don't know if they're coming back, but you could see here, US case victory, unwinding, and then return of Canadian assets in process, and then access to systems, analyze data, open support channels, and then question mark my Forex Fund. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in 2026 with my Forex Funds. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments section. If they do come back, would you trust them? Would you purchase an evaluation with them? From what I've seen and from what I've heard from, people inside the industry, is for firms that do come back after being away, they typically launch at roughly a 10th of the size that they were when they originally shut down. So, if they were doing $100 million, a tenth of that would be 10 million. They were probably doing way more than that. They were an absolutely massive company, and they have resources that are, hard to fathom. So would they come back with the same type of program? Would they come back with something completely different? Who is to say? Who knows? But it will be very interesting to see, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that. That is everything that happened in the industry that I thought of in 2025. If I missed something, let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you guys are excited about our new one-step career program, which I think could be a great tool for traders in 2026 to unlock a level of income that is hard to achieve month over month. The fact that we'll pay you even in drawdown, and that we offer more drawdown on a one-step program than anybody else, I think is exciting, and I think is worth looking into. But this is everything that happened in the industry in 2025. Here's to an amazing 2026. I'm going to be making a video about my 2026 predictions, so I'll see you in that one. Let me know in the comment section if I missed anything, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.